watch Inside Edition.
From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. We begin tonight with a matter of foreign policy that is turning into an increasingly bitter and certainly public political battle about Israel. President Bush today appears to have lost his patience with the Israeli government and its most ardent supporters in the U.S. Mr. Bush had asked the Israelis to delay a request for billions of dollars in loan guarantees until after an Arab-Israeli peace conference. The Israelis asked anyway. The Congress was about to be massively lobbied on Israel's behalf. The president decided it was time to speak up. At a White House, ABC's Ann Compton.
President Bush showed his anger and frustration with Israel and its supporters by interrupting an unusually heavy schedule and telling reporters this is not the time for Congress to open a bitter debate over loan guarantees. That, he said, would ruin plans for a Middle East peace conference.
Quite simply, a 120-day delay is not too much for a president to ask for with so much in the balance. We must give peace a chance. Nothing should be done that might interfere with this prospect. And if necessary, I will use my veto power to prevent that from happening.
The president is worried that Israel will use a $10 billion guarantee right now to increase the number of settlements in the occupied territories. And that, he argues, would prompt some Arab countries to bail out of the peace process. Approving the loan guarantees now, he said, is not worth the risk.
Who's going to get hurt? What impossibly could work against that reasonable request from an administration that's brought this thing from square one right up to a peak that nobody really believed we could achieve.
And the president complained about playing politics.
But I'm going to fight for what I believe, and it may be popular politically, but probably it's not. That's not the question, is whether it's good 1992 politics. What's important here is that we give this process a chance.
President Bush has now abandoned the quiet pressure that he'd been using on Congress all week with no success. If he is to get a peace conference going in the Middle East next month, he has to win this fight, and fast. Ann Compton, ABC News, the White House.
At one point today, the president joked that he'd worn out the telephone in one ear lobbying members of Congress, who are in turn being lobbied by what is widely regarded as one of those powerful pressure groups in the United States. There are thousands of lobbyists on the Hill today, he said, in support of the Israeli position. ABC's Jim Wooten with a look at how it's going.
The president was right. At least 1,000 pro-Israel lobbyists were on Capitol Hill today, urging members of Congress, like Republican Senator Warner, to provide the loan guarantees sooner rather than later.
Now, Senator, I ask you one thing. Please help the doors from Israel stay open.
But Warner stands with the president. On the other hand, Democrat Mikulski of Maryland was glad to see them and eager to embrace their cause.
But I'm absolutely committed to this, and I'm going to do my best to see this through.
Not many interest groups could have presented this large a lobbying effort on such short notice. But at the end of the day, there was little evidence that they'd made much progress toward a veto-proof majority on the loan guarantees. Representative David Obey, a Democrat who's with the president on this one, had this advice.
The government of Israel and its supporters need to work out an accommodation with George Bush, and if they do not, George Bush is going to win the argument.
That accommodation would seem to be what most members of Congress prefer now, some means of avoiding the necessity of having to choose between yet another confrontation with a very powerful president and a very powerful lobby. Peter?
Thank you, Jim. There's been a measure of tension between the Bush administration and the current Israeli government almost since Mr. Bush was elected. There's also been some very close cooperation as during the Gulf War. But time and again from the Bush team, you could hear resentment that Prime Minister Shamir and some of the other conservative Israeli politicians have ignored the president's views on the Middle East, particularly on settlements in Arab territories. Tonight, after the president spoke out so forcefully, the Israelis were officially quiet and privately upset. Here's ABC's Dean Reynolds.
The president's statement caused shock and dismay in Jerusalem tonight. Officially, there was silence, but the anger was clear. One government source said the view is that Bush is acting foolishly, picking a fight with a friend on an issue involving humanitarian assistance and giving aid and comfort to Israel's Arab enemies.
economic blackmail, and economic blackmail is a very hostile act. You agree with American policy, or else you'll suffer financially.
Before the Bush statement, the stock market here hit a record high because of confidence that the U.S. Congress will refuse to delay the loan guarantees. But unemployment also hit a record high today, aggravated by the number of new immigrants.
Immigrants are coming every day to Israel, every day and the night, and we need the money.
Many Israelis believe that even if Shamir were to use the loan money only for humanitarian aid to the immigrants, that would still free up other funds to expand Jewish settlements in the occupied territories. The Israelis are still confident they can win the battle with Mr. Bush, but there is anxiety about the price of such a victory and what it could mean to future requests for help from the country Israel depends on the most. Dean Reynolds, ABC News, Tel Aviv.
Just one other note about Israel. The remains of an Israeli soldier who was captured in Lebanon in 1983 are on their way back to Israel tonight. It is part of a deal between Israel and a Palestinian group. Israel will now allow a Palestinian activist who was expelled from the occupied West Bank to return to his home. There's no hard evidence today of any further progress on an overall deal involving all of the hostages held in Israel and in the Arab world. In a moment, Judge Thomas and the senators. The senators do not find out much more about him. Also tonight, some high-pressured sales tactics to sell security to the elderly. And in Kuwait, the long and dangerous cleanup of explosives still left over from the war.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings, brought to you by new Tylenol PM.
Like so many people, if you're under a physician's care for high blood pressure, ulcers, or asthma, then your choice of a non-prescription pain reliever is especially important. For millions of people like you, the one doctors recommend most is Tylenol. So if you have high blood pressure, ulcers, or asthma, talk to your doctor about the pain reliever you should use. Tylenol. It's the pain reliever hospitals use most.
Reintroducing a glorious name for a glorious new automobile. The 1992 Buick Roadmaster. With its powerful V8 performance and the security of its driver's airbag, anti-lock brakes, and full perimeter frame, Roadmaster is perhaps the best value in an American luxury sedan. Roadmaster also delivers something only a Buick can deliver. Buick quality.
Another day on the witness stand, so to speak, for Judge Clarence Thomas. This time he faced some of the toughest questions yet from senators in 3 days of hearings on his nomination to the Supreme Court. Various senators tried again and again today to get at the root of Judge Thomas's thinking.
As Clarence Thomas, the man, the human being, do you have a personal view on whether society ought to provide women with the option of having an abortion?
I think that whether or not I have a view on this important issue is irrelevant to being an impartial judge.
On anything to do with abortion, after more than 70 questions, they have got nowhere. On the constitutional right to privacy, he would not discuss whether unmarried couples had the right to use contraceptives.
I think that for a judge to sit here without the benefit of arguments and briefs, etc., and without the benefit of precedent,
Okay.
I don't think anyone could decide
Judge,
that.
I think that is the most unartful dodge that I've heard.
There has been a lot of discussion about the judge's alleged beliefs in a higher law than that of the land, a so-called natural law or moral law which some people believe supersedes the Constitution, which the judge has endorsed in public speeches. This was the judge today.
I have attempted in good faith and under oath twice to make clear that I don't think that an appeal and a direct appeal to natural law is a part of adjudicating cases.
And finally, why did he want to become a Supreme Court justice?
Being nominated to the Supreme Court of the United States is one of the highest callings in our country.
The hearings today. The path to the Supreme Court is set out in the Constitution. The President nominates, the Senate confirms. It is never, of course, that simple. The role of public opinion can be critical, Therefore, not very far from the witness stand and the green baize of the committee table, the fight goes on to line up the public on one side or the other. ABC's Cokie Roberts is on Capitol Hill.
Every time a session breaks up, it's lights, cameras, spin the story.
You guys will roll. Danforth will make statements briefly on some of the transactions in the hearing just now.
While some of Thomas's supporters and opponents rush to the bank of cameras,
Hi, I'm Jenny Sassy for the Women's Legal Defense.
Others buttonhole reporters pushing papers and pronouncements, each aimed at getting the media to influence public opinion in the case of Clarence Thomas. In this corner, the Leadership Conference on Civil Rights. A few feet away, the National Organization for Women. And just beyond them, the White House team. Both sides say they need to haunt the halls to make sure reporters get the story straight.
We've been quite concerned about the misstatements that have been made about the commission and Clarence's time there.
It's important for the American public to know that he is not responding to his record, that this is a new Clarence Thomas.
Opponents claim they're simply trying to make a dent in the White House's ability to dominate coverage. Supporters insist they have finally learned to match the women's and civil rights groups' public relations campaigns. Each side hopes the voters will accept its view of Clarence Thomas and in turn influence senators to vote for or against him, because each side knows that what the senators hear from the folks back home is at least as important as any exchange in the hearing room. Cokie Roberts, ABC News, Capitol Hill.
Still in Washington, the Pentagon today has acknowledged that the new B-2 stealth bomber is not up to par. On a recent test flight, the plane did not do a good job, or at least a good enough job, of hiding from radar. At $865 million a plane, that may hurt its chances for getting funding from Congress this fall. When we come back, California officials fight high-pressure sales tactics aimed at the elderly.
Today, there's a prescription-strength cure for athlete's foot. Lotrimin AF, the #1 prescribed athlete's foot medication available without a prescription. Lotrimin AF, the prescription-strength cure for athlete's foot.
Hi, what'd you bring back?
Diarrhea.
Of course. You forgot your Kaopectate.
Advanced formula Kaopectate. Just one dose helps relieve diarrhea fast.
Next time, I won't forget the Kaopectate.
Guaranteed to stop diarrhea fast.
First, we created the LS400 luxury sedan. Now we've taken everything we've learned and condensed it. Introducing the Lexus ES300. All the performance of a sports sedan, all the luxury of a Lexus.
Jordan drives and misses. Michael throws it away. Jordan falls. This is a nightmare.
You'll want to be sure of your game. You also want whole grain nutrition. Wheaties is made with 100% whole grain. These cereals are not. So if you want to rest a little easier, better get your whole grain. You better eat your Wheaties.
A report tonight on the high price of security for elderly Americans. In California, district attorneys in 8 counties have now filed a $2 million lawsuit against the makers of a device that is supposed to bring help to the elderly in case of emergencies. Officials say the devices are sold by preying on the fears of older people. As ABC's Ken Kashiwahara reports, it begins with commercials.
I'm having a heart attack. Someone outside my window. I've fallen and I can't get up.
These sales pitches have prompted hundreds of thousands of senior citizens to buy emergency alert systems, push-button devices which call a private company operator who then dials 911. The ad says no salesman visits you. But today, California law enforcement officials said the company running the ads not only sends salespersons into homes, but uses unethical, high-pressure sales tactics.
Fear and falsehoods appear to be at the center of their sales presentations, and as a result, thousands have been duped into paying exorbitant amounts for these systems.
Officials say the price fluctuates between $2,000 and $5,000, depending what the salesperson can convince the customer to pay. Patricia Bruce says she paid $2,900 for her system, was pressured into buying it, and now wants her money back.
You don't have any choice when you get people that talk like they did. They were fast talkers. They knew their business.
Undercover investigator James Simonson posed as a salesman for the company.
And it's your job to, I was told, to get their money in your wallet.
The California company marketing the devices refuses to comment on the charges. Companies in other parts of the country have faced similar criticism. And the American Association of Retired Persons says seniors fall for sales pitches because they tend to be more trusting than younger consumers.
As someone ages, they're less likely to be dissatisfied, have consumer dissatisfaction. They're less likely to recognize bad marketing practices.
And that, say law enforcement officials, is the point. Not that the emergency alert devices themselves are bad, but that high-pressure sales tactics and price gouging are victimizing a vulnerable segment of society. Ken Kashiwahara, ABC News, San Francisco.
In some broad economic news today, still no sign that inflation is heating up. Wholesale prices rose only 0.2% in August. Energy costs were up and food prices were down. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrials gained more than 20 points today to close at 3,007, and the trading was moderate. In a moment, a report on the breakup of the Soviet Union as seen in one Soviet factory.
Joanna.
Charles. Theirs was a love affair. A love of butter stopped short by cholesterol.
I've dreamt of giving you this.
I can't believe it's not butter.
I can't believe it's not butter is still the only spread flavored with real sweet cream buttermilk for a fresh butter taste, but without the cholesterol to spoil the romance.
I never thought I'd be swept off my feet again.
I can't believe it's not butter. The taste you love without the cholesterol.
In the midday sun, a gentle breeze, we embrace wide eyes. Remember these, the touch, the feel, the fabric of our lives, the touch, the feel of cotton, the fabric of our lives.
Get on, get on, get on, get on, excitement! The all-new Pontiac Bonneville.
A new way to ride.
More than a work of art, an engineering masterpiece. With the stability of four-wheel independent suspension and the accuracy of anti-lock brakes. The art of excitement, the science of control. The all-new Pontiac Bonneville.
Get on the Pontiac! Get on excitement!
Amateurs know a little and ask Ace a lot.
Pros know a lot and ask Ace a little.
Works either way.
Great stuff. Foam insulation is just $2.99, and a 77-yard bonus roll of Ace duct tape is only $3.77.
You might lose your amateur status, John.
Hey, no way.
The same medicine found in the prescription drug Motrin. Same as in Motrin, in non-prescription strength.
If you want the same medicine found in prescription Motrin, wouldn't it just be simpler to ask for Motrin IB? Non-prescription strength Motrin IB. Accept no alternatives.
In Moscow today, a former foreign minister, Edward Shevardnadze, after meeting with Secretary of State Baker, warned that unless the West does something to help the Soviet economy, there could still be another right-wing coup attempt. Mr. Shevardnadze and others said the Soviet Union needs astronomical sums of money. Well, while they're waiting for the aid, which may not be forthcoming, Soviet officials are trying to work out an agreement in which the remaining 12 republics and even the 3 Baltic republics that have left the Union could keep on cooperating with each other. As ABC's Jim Laurie has found, in one factory, making one product, they'd better succeed.
Vladimir Monohov is a worried man. He manages this machine tool plant in Moscow and now fears the breakup of the Union could mean the breakup of his factory.
If the economic relations of the former Soviet Union fall apart, then all manufacturers of heavy equipment like ours will face very grave difficulties.
His problem is that he has to get raw materials and parts from suppliers in half a dozen different republics. So this particular part is from Belarusia. He gets electric components from Latvia, sheet metal from the Ukraine, motors from Armenia. Complicating things further, there's only one supplier for each part. Nobody makes those motors but Armenia.
There's no competition. I don't have any choice.
The system was set up that way by the Kremlin to make republics depend on each other and reinforce central control over how the economy was run. But the system has collapsed. Already the Ukrainians have refused to sell him sheet metal. They say they've found better markets elsewhere. Without materials, workers are standing idle, and some 4,000 employees could be laid off. Rudolf Ponyashev has been on the assembly line for 18 years.
We must have some cooperation among the republics. Armenia doesn't supply motors. Someone else refuses other things. And it's the workers here who will suffer.
Monahov has made the only choice he can. He's cut by 75% the production of heavy machinery that depends on outside suppliers and complicated technology. And he's trying something new. He hopes to keep workers employed by producing this simple equipment for machine shops. No imported parts, no high tech. To the question, how many Russians does it take to make a small lathe? The answer now is as many as possible. Jim Laurie, ABC News, Moscow.
We'll have more news in just a moment.
Does it take a major expedition to get something in your refrigerator? Would you say that finding things isn't exactly a piece of cake? You should explore Frigidaire Elite. Refrigerators so intelligently designed, they practically hand you what you're looking for. And are the most energy efficient we've ever built. After all, it's not just a fridge. It's a Frigidaire.
When you get gas pain, which would you choose? Your antacid or Gas-X, the tablet made for gas pain? It's extra strength, 100% simethicone to get rid of gas faster than your antacid. Fight gas right with Gas-X.
Once again, Buick is raising the banner for quality in America. Introducing the 1992 LeSabre with a higher level of power, safety, security, and convenience. This new LeSabre is going to be one tough act to follow. LeSabre for 1992 from Buick.
Do yourself proud, make you look beautiful, do it for yourself with Minwax and Wood.
Get beautiful color with Minwax Wood Finish and lasting protection with Minwax Polyurethane.
So do yourself proud with Minwax and Wood.
A year ago, America responded to Saddam Hussein's naked aggression. We fought and won. Or did we? Watch Peter Jennings, A Line in the Sand, tonight.
Snatched from your home, put in a hospital against your will because someone said you did drugs. They did it in Texas and collected the insurance. Primetime investigates tonight.
We have learned something new today about the way the U.S. fought the war in the Persian Gulf. The New York newspaper Newsday has discovered that when U.S. forces broke through Iraqi frontline trenches, their tanks, mounted with plow blades, deliberately buried thousands of Iraqi soldiers, some of whom are still alive, some still fighting. The Pentagon spokesman said today, "I don't mean to be flippant, but there is no nice way to kill somebody in war." Well, as you may recall, 80,000 Iraqi troops were taken prisoner. And the Red Cross said today that 13,000 of them are refusing to go home. They will be allowed to stay in Saudi Arabia in the same desert camps where they were held during the war. From Saudi Arabia to Kuwait. It is more than 6 months now since the Gulf War ended, but in some dangerous ways, Kuwait still resembles a battlefield. Here's ABC's Bill Rediker.
In the desert, more than 5 million mines. In city neighborhoods, crates of shells. At factories, trailers full of bombs. Even on highways, in the middle of the road, mortars, rockets, and hand grenades.
Well, each one of these RPG rockets and each one of these shells are capable of taking a tank out.
Except for a few beaches that have been cleared, Kuwait is carpeted with thousands of tons of explosives. In the north and west, unexploded ordnance and ammunition dumps. In the center, vast areas of cluster bombs dropped by the U.S., 1/3 of which failed to explode. And in the south, 2 belts of minefields covering 300 square miles. This is an Iraqi ammunition dump in southern Kuwait. It is one of many here that contains thousands of unexploded mines and other ordnance. And the longer it sits in this hot and windy desert, the more dangerous it becomes. Temperatures up to 140 degrees bake the explosives, making them unstable. And sandstorms play tricks, hiding, even moving the ordnance.
4 rows of mines in the minefield, anti-tank, jumping mines, anti-personnel mines, trip flares.
Ray Washer and Bill Wilk are civilian ordnance disposal technicians. They are among the few who have been hired by the Kuwaiti government to detonate landmines. They are critical of the Kuwaitis for haggling over disposal contracts, delaying the cleanup.
It's making everything more unstable, more difficult to handle with. It's making our job, I would say, 100% more dangerous than what it was if we'd have come straight in here after the war.
The delay can be deadly. Every day, the curious ignore red flags marking ammunition and scavenge through war wreckage for souvenirs. 16-year-old Faisal Al-Hori paid a terrible price.
This leg, she's cut from here and some bone out.
Faisal's friend, Amr Dahawi, lost part of his left leg. Hospital officials say more than 300 civilians have been injured or killed since the end of the war. 4 new blast victims are hospitalized a day. So far, more than 70 soldiers from various countries have been killed. At Camp Black Horse, the U.S. Army base here, 2 recent ammunition accidents injured 50 soldiers and killed 2 ordnance technicians. 14 M1A1 tanks were damaged or destroyed. Only 4 were lost during the war. Although the safest procedure is to detonate unexploded ordnance in place, an Army ordnance technician from the base says soldiers were ordered to move a pile of unstable ammunition, which then exploded.
There was a lot of pressure put on them from high levels that General Schwarzkopf was coming to visit, and it was an eyesore, and the chain of command wanted it cleaned up as fast as possible.
The military refuses to talk about the accident, saying it is under investigation. Even the Army has hired civilian contractors to finish the cleanup at Black Horse Base. But the rest of the country will have to wait. The Kuwaiti government says its first priority is putting out oil well fires and restoring utilities. No one in the government will say when they will get serious about tackling the largest, riskiest cleanup of ammunition since World War II. Bill Redeker, ABC News, Kuwait.
A little later this evening, ABC News will take another look at the legacy of the Gulf War, what was accomplished, what is left to be done. I hope you'll join us for A Line in the Sand, Part 3, beginning at 8 o'clock, 7 Central Time. That's our report on World News Tonight. I'm Peter Jennings. Until later, good night.